And a very good morning to fellow educators. I believe all of us are here with a very single-minded mission in mind on how to educate our young to be relevant with the time. This morning, I'd like to touch a little bit upon what Singapore's education is and how it works in order to prepare the young Singaporeans to be relevant with the time. You know, every education system evolves very much guided by its culture, its history, and the context of the country. As Paul has very succinctly, summarized Singapore's situation, we became independent only in 1965. We are hardly 50 yet as a nation. And we have a population of 5.2 million today. And our education system comprises 520,000 school-going students, all fitted into 360 schools with 33,000 teachers undertaking the task of preparing our students. And because our country is so compact and small, that is why we have only one National Institute of Education to prepare all these teachers and the school leaders and provide the professional development activities for our 33,000 teachers in the schools. And we are located within a university, very much an autonomous institute, fully supported by the ministry, while our academic award is being given by the university. Let me share with you a little bit about the history of educational development in Singapore before I launch into understanding its key features. When Singapore became independent in 1965, we were born out of a very unique circumstances. We were asked to leave the Federation of Malaysia. And in the process, we were landed up with an island with a population of low literacy, an island without natural resource, with high unemployment, and even a fragmented social compact of the society, because we have a diverse population of different racial mix of Malays, Indians, Chinese, as well as the other races that come to this city. So the first task that the government encountered was to look at education as the key driver to raise up and elevate the economic development of the country. And so the first step the government took, with very much a school education system left behind by the British government. Okay, we are a colony of UK. And working on that platform, we started a massification of educating the young, focusing on giving them a good dose of numeracy and literacy such that they will at least have some knowledge and some skills to be employable, let alone what you call involving in high-skill industry. We just want to raise up the literacy and numeracy so that our young can have an opportunity and some foundation to be employable. So starting from 1965 to 1979, we call that period the survival-driven education, because literally it is to ensure the survival of the nation born out of a unique set of circumstances. And the government at that point of time, with their focus of elevating the economic development of the country, took an approach of inviting technological firms all over the world, creating an environment where they can operate in Singapore at a very efficient and profitable level. So the government extended the invitation, and I believe even DuPont set up a base in Singapore, okay, to sell agro products to the region, because Asia is literally an agriculture-based country at that point of time. And many countries came over, companies came over to set base in Singapore. And by the time we are in the late 80s, we observe two developments that we need to have a relook at our education system and model. The first is the demand for technical skills as an outcome of many multinationals setting up base in Singapore, production, assembly, and so on. That was the first development. The second development that we observe is that about 18 to 20% of our students, that was the attrition rate of students when we compare students reaching 10 years of education. That means out of the student cohort, up to the time of the late 70s, 20% leave the school system and did not complete 10 years of education. Now, this was an issue that worried the government a great deal, simply because of small population, we look at the human capital as our only natural resource. So therefore, every student counts if we have to depend on them to contribute to the development or economic development of the country. So we begin to look very deeply into this, the survival-driven education model to find out why these students leave and the attrition rate is so high. And we found out that many of these students who left for a very simple reason that they could not cope with the syllabus and the curriculum that was put in place to raise their literacy and numeracy. So that gives us a notion that a one-model-fits-all education seems somewhat not very much functional when we reach that level of preparing our students. So therefore, we had a deep look at it, and we want to ensure that every child can have at least a 10-year education period. Then they can move on to post-secondary to some vocational skills acquisition. And we took a very hard decision of developing different tracks for different students to allow them to learn at their own pace. Some students will complete we call it the secondary school, 4 years for the curriculum in 4 years, and some will complete it in 5 years, so that we allow those who are slower learners to be able to cope with a slower pace of learning, but enabling them to complete that secondary curriculum. Now, as an outcome of that initiative, the attrition rate of 20% was reduced down very much to only 1 to 2%. And that shows that our, what you call, decision of providing the different tracks was the right one, even though it was quite controversial from an educational point of view. And that was the period, we call it the efficiency-driven education. We have a great efficiency in terms of students reaching 10 years of education. And that also prepared them very well to meet the needs of the multinationals for technical workers to support them in the factory and in the production. But we also see that the world landscape change and evolve at a very fast pace. By the mid-1990s, we realized that the world has moved from an industry-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. Now, in a knowledge-based economy, you require quite a different set of attributes of people and knowledge work from the knowledge workers. Attributes beyond just technical skills and technical knowledge. When you come to the knowledge-based economy, while knowledge is an asset, it is only an asset as far as you keep the knowledge to yourself. But knowledge will become a value when you translate knowledge into something applicable that can derive certain values on. So the government felt that by the mid-1990s, the efficiency-driven education, which is very much based on literacy and numeracy, although allowing different tracks of development, we move from efficiency to what we call ability-driven education. In other words, we now focus not just on the basic foundations of numeracy and literacy, but we want to develop the students to express and be able to fully realize whatever ability and potential that they have. Those who are very good in science, we provide pathways for them to excel in it. Those who are good in arts and humanities, we provide that pathway for their development as well. And this education focus began in 1997 and it ended last year when the fourth iteration took place. And what is the fourth iteration? Again, the government, led the review in response to the changes that are taking place in the world. Today, the world is very different from the one, even if you compare it, say, 5 years ago. Why is it so? I'm just repeating what all of you may have already known or fully aware, better known to me. The world has evolved because of the fast evolution of knowledge and a fast advancement of technology. And that changes almost every aspect of the job market. Today, with robotics and other technological advances, even the task of a basic cleaning job has changed because of the equipment that are available for you to use. In the production factory, because of the usage of robotics, the job skills of a production worker, the demand of that skills have changed tremendously. And that is only one aspect. The second aspect is our students have also changed. In fact, today they are very much dubbed as the epic learners. Students who are digitally savvy, whose preference of learning involves experiences, participation, imagery, inquiry, and connectedness as a group to work together. Very few students today will want to study on their own or alone. They just love to study as a group. Now, because of this fast changing shift and that changes the demands in the job skills as well as the learning profiles of students, the government took another relook at the education model and paradigm that we have adopted, and we begin to move from the ability-driven education to student-centric and value-based education. I will talk a little bit more about that. Okay? So this is a short history of the 4 iterations that the Ministry of Education has undertaken in terms of evolving the education system in Singapore. So now, I would like to move on to talk about, the crux of the title of my presentation, the Singapore education system, what is the unique features that we can talk about it, And one of the unique features, as I have stated just now, will be, it is an evolving education system that truly focuses in responding to changes that are taking place and responding in ways that will prepare our students, always having the students in mind, how to prepare them to be relevant and able to meet the needs of the new landscape. You know, as you see that every iteration is to respond to the new landscape and to meet the demands of the new landscape. So likewise, in the fourth iteration of student-centric and value-based education, it is responding to what the changes of the world is creating in terms of its new demands. See, many educators do ask me, what is the secret that enables the Singapore education system to be able to prepare our students to perform well, to be able to build themselves up to be graduates with skills and knowledge that can meet the demands of the landscape. And of course, although the PISA and TIMSS results are something we take with a pinch of salt, but yet it is visible that Singapore students do well in these tests. The question asked is, how did the Singapore education system able to manage to achieve such results? I will be revealing state secrets, but I believe this is already an open secret, so I can say it quite what you call loudly. Yeah, I have a teacher's voice, literally loudly, you know. I believe the key feature of a Singapore's education system is the word alignment, coherence and alignment. And last year, as I was resting from some health issues, and I came up with this model called the 3P, the P-cube model. A model that tries to explain how the Singapore education system works. Now, I drew this model and put it into a triangle. Within the central part, encapsulated within the triangle, is the desired goals of education. You see, this is a very important aspect of what educational development should be. There must be very clear goals of what you want to educate your children to become. What do you want to educate them for? Unless we know what we want to educate our children for, how can we plan our journey to educate them? So Singapore is very conscious of the desired goals of education. And these desired goals of education must capture the needs of the new landscape, the attributes that we want to build in our students so that they can meet the demands of the new landscape. I will explain this in my next slide, but I want to talk about the system first. So once you have a clear desired goals of education, all the stakeholders within the system that contributes to the development of that education processes and journey must be aligned with this goal. This goal will become the star that guides every activities that contributes towards the development of the education processes and journey. And I mentioned to Paul and the team yesterday, stars are very important. You know, Charles Seuss, who is the author of Snoopy, you know, he made this statement. Stars are important simply because they serve as compass to guide us in that journey. You know, sometimes we may not reach and touch the stars, but they are important note and beacon to guide us in that journey. So therefore, this goals of education becomes the central point through which the ministry, in their role as the policy makers to guide the development of education, will guide them in terms of developing policies that will enable the goals to be achieved. In terms of resource allocation in terms of curriculum development, in terms of pedagogical planning, in terms of teacher development, in terms of leadership development, in terms of assessment development. All this must be guided from the design point of view and planning point of view by the goals of education, the star that guides the policy. So when the Ministry of Education have a full set of policies in place, but policy will only remain a policy unless it is coherently implemented to achieve its outcome. So while planning of policy is important, the implementation of policy is even more important, because your results can only be as good as how it is implemented. So therefore, the other players in the education system must work in tandem, work in alignment as guided by the goals. So for the schools, who are the key player in bringing about the desired goals of education, must translate the policies into practices. How teaching and learning are to be executed and implemented in the classroom, such that the students in the process of their learning can achieve and attain the desired goals of education. So the teachers and the school leaders must fully understand the goals and the policies that are designed to achieve these goals and translate them into practices. Now, what about the Teacher Preparation Institute? We always feel that we may be outside the realm of policy making and policy implementation. But no, my friends, the teacher education institutions plays a crucial role in bringing about the achievements and the attainment of the desired outcomes of education. Because they are the ones that prepare teachers with the relevant knowledge and skills to design practices and translating the policies into the right practices in order to achieve the desired outcomes or desired goals of education. So therefore, the Teacher Preparation Institutes must translate the policies into proper teacher preparation programs that will equip the teachers with the right skills, knowledge, and values, such that the teachers can perform their role in a relevant way back in the schools in order to achieve the desired goals of education. And with this understanding, I would like to talk about the goals of education of Singapore. In 2007, in 2004, the Ministry of Education felt that an extensive review of the education system needs to be looked at in response to the changing landscape of the world. We consulted many employers, and employers who are actually heads of multinationals in the international arena. And we consulted them and asked them, what do you think are the skills that will be needed in view of these fast changes of technology and evolution of knowledge, say in the year 2020, or even earlier, say 2015, that was in 2004 and 2005. And we also realized that when we look at the jobs in 2005 and 2004, some of them were not heard of in the late 1990s. That is how fast the labor market is shifting. So as an outcome, we came up with a few conclusions. We cannot catch up with change because it is going to be changing so fast and furious. We cannot catch up with knowledge because it's evolving so fast. And the world is going to be one of which we call it the VUCA environment, VUCA. You know, in Singapore, we love acronyms. Yeah? We are very lazy to pronounce long words, so we have acronyms. The VUCA environment. And what is the VUCA environment? It's an environment one of volatility. You know, today is very volatile, right? You know, any part of the world, you take up a newspaper, you know, yesterday was highly peaceful and today is a completely different landscape. That is how volatile it is. Second is uncertainty. Things are so uncertain because of the changes that's taking place so fast. C, complexity. You know, the issues today are so complex that sometimes if dawn upon us, you know, that even though with the type of wisdom that we have, we can't pinpoint exactly what the heart of the issue is. It's so complex. What is the other word? A, yeah, VUCA. A is ambiguity. You know, uncertain and ambiguous. Nothing is so fixed that you can pinpoint that it is going this way. Everything will change and tomorrow it may shift in another direction. So, with all these, the characteristic of a VUCA environment and fast-changing knowledge and technology, how then can we educate a student who can be relevant with the time? Especially, we also realize that a child entering year 1 of elementary school today will graduate 12 years later. And with this fast-changing rate that's taking place, what will be the environment in 12 years' time? So how do we educate a child in that environment? So therefore, we took a very hard stand on what education for our children is. We know that the basic knowledge of numeracy and literacy is still required. But we give them the fundamental basis of knowledge of this numeracy and literacy. At least they can communicate, they can understand, count, and be able to reason with scientific knowledge. We cannot keep up with the fast-changing knowledge. We have to enable the student with the base that they are grounded with, be able to self-direct themselves to learn, to be able to keep up with the new knowledge. So that is one, what you call a decision that we want to make. The second is, in this world of uncertainty, what could anchor them well and help them to respond to the change without fear and without trepidation? This is something that we find that it is very important to build in our students to prepare them for the new era. So with all the iterations that we look at, we feel that there is a certain set of core values that our students will need to anchor them in this new environment of uncertainty and create 4 outcomes of education for them: a confident person, a self-directed learner, an active contributor, and a concerned citizen. These will be the 4 goals of our education. Let me explain to you a little bit, because of time, just a little bit what it means. A confident person. A confident person is not wanting to develop them to be proud person. We want to develop them with persons with resilience and perseverance, able to respond to changes without fear, able to welcome changes, looking at changes with opportunity rather than of fear, helping them to be strong in their outlook. Self-directed learner, I think it is obvious, knowledge and skills advance. So that's why there is 3 words are very common in today's context: learn, unlearn, and relearn. We want the children to learn how to learn so that they can become self-directed learners. Active contributor. Now this is where the values part comes in. We want our young students to understand that the path of their success is not their doing alone. They are able to develop and succeed because of the support of the community and the society for them. Taxpayers' money contributed to support them in their educational endeavors. So when they succeed, they must think of how to contribute back to the society. If there are the lesser fortunates, can they do their part out of their success to help the have-nots so that we can create a more equitable and caring society? And education is a great impact in terms of what the future society will evolve. And this is something we want to develop in them, a sense of contribution to the society. Now, a concerned citizen, this is very unique for Singapore. It's a paradox, a challenge that we face. We educate our children well, and they become so mobile. And we always talk about globalization today, global citizens, and if this message of global citizens continue to, enter their mind, they will all move out of Singapore, and Singapore will become an empty country without its citizen. So we want to inculcate a sense of belonging, that yes, you must be globally relevant. You can contribute and work, beyond the shores of Singapore. But always remember, Singapore is where you belong. Singapore is your home. Singapore is where your family is. It is your root of your life. So we want our children to have a sense of belonging. So therefore, with this as the key outcomes of education, then the goals of education, the desired goals of education in Singapore now will be to develop our children to be a confident person, a self-directed learner, an active contributor, and a concerned citizen. So with that as the goal, the ministry will begin to develop curriculum, policies, and all those to achieve this goal. And the school must develop practices and programs that will enable our children to build this attribute in them. And the teacher preparation must align with that policies to be able to prepare teachers with a clear understanding of this desired goals of education such that they can go to the school to deliver their practices. You see the coherence and alignment? Now I will show you how each of this is being done. Now for the ministry, the preparation is, the policies are very clear. They will refine their curriculum in terms of emphasizing on not just the basic foundations of knowledge, but also the emphasis of values inculcation. Now some of you may be wondering, what values are you talking about? Whose set of values that you are talking, that you want the children to acquire? It is a single set of universal values. Values such as respect, integrity and honesty, care and concern. These are all universal values. It is not a value that is very much based on a single faith or single ideology, but it is a values that are universally accepted, dedicated and devoted, right? This is a value that every culture embraces. So this is something that is very much now ingrained in the educational development of our students. So for the schools, where they have to develop or implement the practices, so many of their planning and development in the schools will have to be refined and reshaped and reformed such that the educational practices delivered can achieve the desired goals of the 4 attributes. And this will involve teacher professional development. Because when you roll out certain new initiative, if the teachers are not well developed and well prepared to deliver these practices to achieve these new sets of goals, you will not achieve what you intend to achieve. So therefore, the teacher professional development will emphasize on, say, new pedagogy that is being designed. In the 20th century, the teaching is primarily didactic. The teacher being the main owner of the knowledge, and the student being the passive learner. And like me, who is now I'm speaking and you are listening passively. Today, our students, the epic learners, will not accept such kind of teaching. They want to be engaged. So the teacher must shift from one of being the direct owner and imparter of knowledge to one of facilitating learning and fostering collaborative learning among the students. So the pedagogical change must come in, as well as classroom reconfiguration. Because 20th century classrooms are very much designed for didactic teaching. But for collaborative learning, they must be redesigned, reconfigured, such that students can work as a group. So the schools will have to look at all this, including co-curricular activities, like taking sports, uniform activities. These are activities that may meet the needs of the students in terms of sporting and other activities. But we use this to inculcate values like teamwork, discipline, perseverance, resilience. Some may fail in terms of their sporting pursuit, but do we allow that failure to stop him from continuing to pursue it even with excellence? No, we want to encourage them to be resilient, to be able to pursue with perseverance. So the schools will look into all this in alignment to the goals that has been set for the students. Now, the Teacher Education Institute, that is my institute, I have to prepare my teachers to be able to understand fully the desired goals of education, the 4 attributes. And I also like to see that the new role the teacher will play in this new area. If you talk about inculcating values in the students, the teachers themselves must embrace some of those values too. So we have to look at this teacher education program, took a very extensive review in 2009 in responding to the new policies of the ministry. And we came up with a teacher education model for the 21st century, which is called the VUCA model. What is VUCA? VUCA stands for 3 sets of values, skills, and knowledge. Now, what values do we want our teachers to imbibe? There are 3 sets. The first set is called learner-centered values. And the learner-centered values will contain values such as, I believe that every child can learn. If a teacher have that belief, when he goes into the class, then his or her perspective of whether the academically inclined students can learn or the slower learners can learn, it will be a very, very different one. If you feel that only the academically inclined students can learn, then your perspective of the slower learners will be very different. So therefore, the beliefs are very important for teachers. They drive the behavior. They drive the passion of teachers in the classroom. So we inculcate in them that belief. I believe that every child can learn. Then the second belief, I respect diversity. The teacher must understand that in the complexity of a classroom today, there are many diverse circumstances. Children coming from the less fortunate background, children coming from well-to-do background, children coming from different racial background or religious background, and students who are good and slower learners. So in such complexity, unless a teacher has the values of appreciating diversity, his perspective will be very different in the class. Now, the second set of values is the teacher identity. We want the teacher to understand that he or she is a teaching professional, not just someone who is doing a job in teaching. Because today, teachers must be recognized as professionals, because the teaching job is a professional job. The demands of teachers in the classroom is going to be exceptionally complex. I've just spoken some of the complexity. So therefore, the teacher, if he identify himself as the professional, and that will drive him or her, to develop himself or herself professionally as best as it can be to deliver a professional job in the classroom. Look for new pedagogical dimension that can help the slower learners or motivate the less motivated. It is a complex job. So we want to encourage the teachers to have that identity, that I am a professional. And the third set of value is a commitment to the profession itself. How can the professionals help one another to develop professionalism in the field of teaching? So we want them to share best practices. The senior teachers could mentor the junior teachers so that together the profession grows and that they can do a good job. So this was the set of values that we inculcated in our student teachers, so that they, when they go into the schools, they will impart values of professionalism unto their students. So the focus of values must also look at the reformation of pedagogies, because teachers will have a different set of pedagogies to deliver while in the schools, to equip our students and to meet the needs of the EPIC learners. And the classroom must be transformed as well in order to produce that environment suitable for collaborative learning. Now, this is some of the classrooms that now you find at the National Institute of Education. We have moved away from didactic environment into one of collaborative, and very much supported by technology. Every group can now link to the panels. And this is another model. And this is a library. Now, I would like to say something about a library. You know, in this new landscape, every norm has to be challenged and changed. What is the normal paradigm of a library? Silence. Today, if you continue to keep silent, your library will really be silent because there will not be many students. Today, we set up in the heart of my institute's library is a Starbucks-like cafe. And the whole floor is filled with students collaborating and learning together. That even when I go to the library to find a seat, I can't find it. See, this is another picture of the library, all collaborating together. Now, in all this, we also need to work with other stakeholders, like the parents, because parents are our partners in the development of education to achieve the educational goals. So the parents must work with schools in order to bring about this alignment of the goals. So in conclusion, see, I'm so fast, so obedient, yeah, so conforming, yeah. If you ask me the key features of the Singapore education system, literally, it is one of coherence, one of being responsive, and one who always tries to ensure that it is relevant with the time, be policy, practice, or preparation, such that together as we work as a team, as a system, we are able to achieve the desired outcomes of the goals, and which is really should be the heart of every educator's job. You know, we may play our different roles in different domains, You can be a union representation. You can be a teacher. You can be a school leader. You can be a policy maker. But what is common among all these players together? We must have a common vision. And the student, the child, should be the focus in all our deliberations. Not any other issues that talks about this or that. But it is the child who is the future that you, each one of us, are responsible for. And this is the focus of what the Singapore education system is about. Thank you very much.